What's up everyone, Max here, and joining me is Matt. And
Yep.
Matt just got back from Comic-Con not too long ago and had a lot of time to dive into some impressions of games. What games are these?
Well, the first one we're going to talk about is Resident Evil 6. Now, if you pre-ordered Dragon's Dogma and you have an Xbox 360, you've probably played the demo that came with it, which was more or less a slightly expanded version of the E3 demo.
Or they saw it. You can actually see that on the channel right now. I did a
Yeah.
playthrough of all the scenarios.
What was really interesting though about Comic-Con is that Capcom actually brought a brand new demo featuring completely different levels for each of the three main characters. But the most important part of this is that they took feedback from the demo from E3 and the ones you guys have been playing and have actually already improved a lot of the stuff that was, you know, a little bit off or awkward or wrong with it.
Yeah, and this was the thing.
So,
I actually made a quick video after the playthrough of Resident Evil 6, the good and the bad, and essentially complaining about a lot of these things. So, like,
Yeah.
the camera's an issue, the controls feel a little bit out of whack, and I forget what the other one was, but there's a few other big complaints of mine.
Yeah.
And
So first of all, the first thing that got fixed that I noticed was the camera. It's basically been pulled back. One of the Capcom associates described to me that originally, like, your character takes up almost like 50% of the frame,
Yeah.
and now they've pulled it back so they take up basically a quarter, and like they kind of moved to the lower left. They basically modeled it to look a lot more like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5. So that's first and foremost. You don't even need to play the new demo to see that. The other thing they really fixed a lot was screen tearing, and that was kind of a big issue.
oh, that was
with,
that was the thing I had a big problem with. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's pretty much almost all gone, and I say almost because there was every now and again you'd get a little bit of screen tearing, you know, in the demo, but it was like few and far between. So that's the main thing there. But
So after seeing all this stuff, like, we were a little worried about Resident Evil 6 at E3. Like, to be honest, I was like, I don't know if this game even is as good as 5 was.
yeah,
But after Comic-Con, you feeling a bit better?
I am feeling a bit better. I'm not quite feeling that it's like Resident Evil 4 levels, but that's kind of an unrealistic bar to have.
Because I think we'll agree, Resident Evil 4 is one of the, if not the greatest game ever made.
Yeah,
almost.
so yeah, it's pretty much right up there. So Capcom was really adamant about making sure this is the game everyone wants. So that's why a lot of these features were changed really quickly, because they really do want to make this the game you all want to play. So I'll go into a little bit, like Leon, his campaign is by far, you know, the improved one. From the demo you got for the 360,
Yeah.
he's basically running through a couple hallways, and you run into some zombies
Nothing
at the very
happens.
end, and like, yeah, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So the demo was much longer for Leon at Comic-Con, and you're basically trying to, with Helena, escape a college campus in Tall Oaks, and there are all kinds of zombies everywhere. You run into a lot of situations that mimic the house segment from Resident Evil 4 a lot.
Oh,
Like,
that's kind of cool.
you'll go into, like, one thing is you go into this courtyard campus, there's like a few zombies out there, and you get to the gate on the other end, and the gate's locked, so you have to go find the security key, which is in like one of the offices, like the main administration offices. So as you go in that office, like, a whole bunch of zombies like rush the door, and they start piling in the windows. You know, this little narrow hallway.
Oh, I did see this,
Yeah,
and it was
and then-
pretty intense. So they're sticking their
Yeah.
arms and their bodies
and
into the door.
Hunnigan's trying to unlock the door into the administration office, and like they're just pouring in, and you know, you're trying to survive, and then finally it gets unlocked, and then as you rush through, you try to close the door behind you, and you're pushing on it, you know, and you're trying to hold the door back, but these zombies keep, you know, creeping through, and it's very much like Jurassic
So
Park.
this is an
You have to
epitome.
like shoot them in the head and then push the door back.
This is survival horror at this
Yeah,
point, which is cool.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, this, one thing that me and one of my other colleagues have kind of noticed is melee is God. And melee was God in Resident Evil 4 as well.
Yeah.
But the thing was, you had to stun them before you can do melee. Resident Evil 6 allows you to do melee attacks on the fly anytime with the R
So you can
trigger.
just chop dudes up and they just take it.
I mean, it basically helps because you can run up, you can stun, like kick a zombie in the face, or like do, like, you know, a 3-hit combo with Leon. And it really does help, unless you're really getting swarmed. So, you know, you had a lot of that, and then after you get the key card and you get, like, you know, zombies come into the offices as you're trying to make your way back. And then there's this great moment where you're running off campus and you run, and there's all these zombies, and I was trying to kill them all at first, and I'm like, man, there's just too many, and they keep coming. So Leon says, just, there's our exit out of here, and he points to a cop car, and so I just booked it to the cop car, got inside, and as I got inside, all these zombies are like piling on the cop car, and then they're like, where are the keys, where are the keys? And you use the analog stick to like look around, and like you press X, so you look, you open the glove compartment, nothing's there, and like you look around, finally, you know, you look under the visor, and the keys are in the visor, and like then you have to quick time rev start the car, and like he pulls forward and smashes into a wall, and then you have to like reverse to get the zombies off the back, and then forward again.
This is kind of cool. Okay, this is like The big thing I was worried about Resident Evil 6, and we were talking about this as well earlier, how the game is like so ridiculously serious about itself and serious about its situation, and it still seems that way, but these scenarios make it a lot better. And the problem is that the scenarios the characters were put in, along with this super serious like drama and setting and the way the characters are acting, it just didn't seem interesting.
Yeah,
like, it seemed like it's okay.
You know,
it's like playing 28 Days Later.
To make it, you know, I still think that is a bit of a problem with RE6. It is a very serious game.
It doesn't say it can't be at all.
To go on a little off topic here, I also was in the Resident Evil Damnation panel, where not only did we see the trailer, which you can view online now, but we were shown 7 minutes of the opening of the film, and immediately right there, Leon is just busting out the one-liners like almost constantly. In fact, one fan was even asking, why is there so much cheesy lines? And I pretty much yelled at her right at the panel in front of everyone, and everyone was on my side too. With Resident Evil Damnation, the director said, you know, we got a lot of feedback from Degeneration where Leon was too serious and he had no funny lines. And so when you watch Resident Evil Damnation later this year, which is a prequel to RE6, you'll see Leon has been written exactly like he was in 4. He's very, like, you know, very cocky, sure of himself, full of the great, you know, one-liners. So I mean, it's a little off topic there, but you know, it's something I did want to like share with you guys, that it's really, I actually think that's really cool.
Since we're talking about like characters and scenarios and stuff you can play, we were talking about Chris's scenario, how it's very Call of Duty-ish.
Yeah,
like soldiers all over the
once you start Chris's mission, it immediately, you know, the Call of Duty comparisons are just not going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, you're in an Eastern European village and you're escorting a big APC. The whole thing feels like Bog and Crossfire.
There was this one thing that we came across the other evening that I did with a couple of other friends, and what do you know about giant invisible snakes? Have you not seen this? There's a scenario with Chris and Pierce.
Pierce.
They're all underground, and they're being stalked by this thing, and they don't know what it is. Turns out it's a giant effing invisible snake, and it's ridiculous looking, and it's actually a really cool scene. Like at one point, I was like, "The giant, well, that sounds ridiculous," and then you see it, and it's like, "Oh my god, this is dope." Well, it's neat looking.
Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, it isn't just like Call of Duty, because it starts off like Call of Duty, and then there's big giant like dopey looking zombie comes terrorizing through town, like this big King Kong size thing, and he's breaking up the buildings, and you have to like shoot him down, shoot the big like, you know, zit on his back, and you know, you do all, and then like Chris runs on his back and pulls out a big like, you know, meat spike and stabs it into him. So it gets, you know, it is Call of Duty.
It's Resident Evil 5 setting, right there.
But it's still got these weird, bizarre looking biohazard creatures. So I mean, the other thing with Chris you gotta understand is that yes, Chris is the action oriented. You are going to be going into like the big, thick of things combat with Chris, and it's very good. Like Leon is very traditional Resident Evil, or at least Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil Revelations, traditional Resident Evil, and Chris is very much taking what 5 did and amping it up. Chris melee sucks, by the way. Like,
yeah, I remember reading.
He's not
the demo.
He's not like bad at meleeing. It's just that when he melees, he kind of just does this, and he has no range. So Jake has the best range for meleeing, and he's the fastest at meleeing. And Leon's kind of like between Chris and the, you know, and Chris is just and then punch.
So what this all is like we're getting a lot of variety in gameplay. Like the stuff I was really worried about Resident Evil 6, and I'm still worried because I haven't actually played this yet. Like don't get me wrong, but it seems that this game's kind of going to be awesome when it comes out. Like eventually all these things might fall together and it could be pretty good.
I mean, probably the most honest thing I can say is right now is Leon's campaign is going to be awesome. Like we know at least, I feel right now that Leon is going to have a great game. I think Jake will be interesting, but I'm not sure how it'll pan out in the end. And Chris, I think Chris will be fun, but Chris, because of the nature of how just crazy actiony it is, it almost feels like a bonus you unlock, like a mercenaries like mode, or just like he's an extra like action mode.
Story.
Yeah, Chris almost feels like an expanded version of one of the action bonus games you usually unlock in a Resident Evil game. And right now, Leon's feels the most traditional and the most like Resident Evil, and then Jake's kind of like very unique. And I'm not downplaying Jake's, but I just don't know yet. I don't have a good feel for it, even after playing both demos. Like, he's very fun, but but I don't know if it's going to be like an amazing experience.
Well, this is all some pretty decent impressions from a game that I was kind of losing hope on, and Resident Evil 6 was kind of in my back burner. So if you guys enjoyed this topic of conversation, please leave a thumbs up below. If you have any concerns for Resident Evil 6 that might be really bugging you, as much of a lot of you guys, I think I said in the previous video that Resident Evil kind of now has become a game where the core of the game is for you to shoot zombies with guns. Like, that is what it is now. Like, Resident Evil back in the day was to solve puzzles and stay alive and resource management and all this stuff, you know? Now, like, the core of the game is to shoot stuff with guns. Like, and we'll see how much that applies in this game, but nonetheless, if you guys enjoyed the video, once again, leave a thumbs up. We're going to be tackling more of these Resident Evil issues and gameplay segments, and we'll be looking a lot more at the game when it comes out, because we have a Resident Evil expert here and a guy who really likes playing action games, and we'll definitely be giving this a co-op run-through as soon as it comes out. So take care, folks. We'll be back with some more Comic-Con impressions and other games.